Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome each one of you here tonight, February 5th meeting. This time we'll call ourselves to order. And item 1 on the agenda is a proclamation observing Black History Month. And I'll ask Ms. Anthony if she'll read that, please.
Proclamation observing February 2019 as Black History Month. Whereas noted historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson announced the second week of February as Negro History Week in 1926 in order to increase public awareness and appreciation of the important role that African Americans have played in shaping America's history. And whereas the United States government officially recognized Negro History Week in 1976 as part of the U.S. bicentennial, expanding it to Black History Month. And whereas America is a melting pot of cultures and ethnicities, all part of the land of the free, Black History Month fosters cultural awareness and understanding while encouraging education about contributions made by Americans of color. And whereas the omission of much of this history and contributions of African Americans from textbooks and other literature has impeded awareness and appreciation. And whereas the celebration of Black History Month is a positive way of recognizing the culture and history of African Americans as vital to the core beliefs and values of this society. And whereas the contributions of African Americans have been vital to the growth and development of the city of Monroe. Now, therefore, I, Bobby G. Kilgore, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Monroe, do hereby proclaim and observe February 2019 as Black History Month, and encourage the local citizenry to participate in activities that foster awareness and appreciation of African Americans' contributions to shaping the history of Monroe, Union County, North Carolina, and America. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Monroe to be fixed this 5th day of February 2019.
Thank you, Ms. Anthony. Next item will be the consent agenda. Larry.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. City Council uses the consent agenda to consider items that are non-controversial and routine. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a council member or citizen with the consent of council. The consent agenda contains the following items. The second item on our agenda is for the purpose of approving 2 budget amendments for the police department. The first of which is to accept a $225 donation from Have a Heart Foundation in support of the Explorer program. The second is to accept a $1,500 donation from Omnova to be used for the Great and Eddie Eagle Gun Safe programs. Item 3 is for the purpose of calling for 3 public hearings to be held March 5th, 2019. The first is to consider a historic landmark designation for Ashcraft Garin House located at 304 East Houston Street. Second and third hearings involve rezoning property by amending the Code of Ordinances sections 156.98 and section 156.106. The first of these 2 involves rescheduling a hearing from this evening to March 5th. That property is located near the intersection of North Charlotte Avenue and Dickerson Boulevard from Conditional District Dickerson Boulevard Residential to Conditional District Fraser Court. And the other property is located at 410 North John Street from Residential High Density R10 to Conditional District Cup Bear Meal Center. The fourth item is for the purpose of adopting the capital project budget in the amount of $175,000 to secure exhibits for the Science Center. The fifth item is for the purpose of awarding the contract to Eaglewood to install the stormwater measures at a cost of $53,838 for the airport corporate airplane storage hangar. Item 6 involves minutes and reports. Item 6A involves disbursements from City Council's discretionary fund. And there are 4 sets of disbursements for this period. First group involves Mayor Bobby Kilgore, Mayor Pro Tem Gary Anderson, Councilmember Sluta Anthony, each of which made a disbursement to a Few Good Men banquet in the amount of $30 each. Additionally, Councilmember Sluta Anthony had a second disbursement to the Rotary Club of Monroe in the amount of $200. Councilmember Franco McGee made 5 disbursements that included Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. prayer breakfast in the amount of $25, and to the Union County Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. organization banquet in the amount of $25, to Parkwood High School basketball team's holiday meal in the amount of $190, Bridging the Gap event in the amount of $250, and Grow Smart CLT conference ticketing for Confronting Racial Equity, Lessons from Minneapolis, in the amount of $10. Item B, 6B, is financial reports for January 2019. As a summary, I'll highlight several fund balance amounts, the first of which is total fund balance, which is $28,563,016. A few subsets of total fund balance are fund balance reserved by policy is $10,106,092. Unassigned general fund balance is $5 million, and total assigned fund balance is $2,106,000. There are 7 sets of minutes, letters 6C through I, and item 6J is for a summary of contracts awarded, change orders approved, and city manager's settlement of claims. There were 23 contracts for the period totaling $287,000 and change, and there were no claims settled for this period. Item 7 is for the purpose of authorizing staff to issue requests for proposals for solid waste services. Staff has recommended initially having the vendors make presentations to the Public Enterprise Committee on May 21st and subsequently referred to City Council to hear the committee's recommendation on June 4th. Item 8 is for the purpose of approving the airport's list of capital improvements for the fiscal year 2019 through 2025 for submittal to NCDOT. Item 9 is for the purpose of accepting the Public Enterprise Committee and engineering staff's recommendation to deny Union Power Cooperative's request to waive requirements to construct a sidewalk along Rocky River Road as part of Union Power's campus expansion.
I'd like to request that one come off, please.
Okay. Item 10 is for the purpose of approving the tax releases for the month of December in the amount of $59,463 and change. Of that total, $58,410 and change involved late listing fees that were released upon the county assessor's review of the original listing forms. The remaining releases were created by a change or reduction in value for the city of Monroe by the Union County tax assessor. Item 11 is for the purpose of awarding a contract to Lucity Inc. in the amount of $171,838 for the implementation of the Water Resources Computerized Maintenance Management System. And that concludes the items summary placed on City Council's consent agenda. And item 9, the sidewalk waiver request by Union Power has been taken off the consent and placed where the mayor likes it.
Okay.
I move that consent agenda be accepted, the exception of number 9.
I have a motion.
Second.
Yep. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Consent agenda passed, and we'll take up item 9 at this time.
Mayor,
Yes,
I would like to make a motion that we do grant the waiver request by the Union Power Cooperative in regards to the sidewalk on Rocky River Road.
okay.
I have a question. Can you review what that was, please, before what that request was?
To waiver the sidewalk on Rocky River Road where there is no sidewalks up and down Rocky River
I mean,
Road.
the particulars about it, because
Well, the best I can explain it. Maybe somebody can do it better than I, but I can explain it, yes. One
You
minute.
may want to ask
Jim, would you
Jim
come
Morris.
forward?
Jim, Mr. Lloyd, we'll recognize you at this time, sir, please.
One of the questions, want me to go over the proposal?
it had been previously denied. I was don't recall what the particulars were
Okay,
about the request.
yeah. The City of Monroe Standard Specifications and Detail Manual requires sidewalk to be provided along existing arterial and collector streets as a development requirement. A listing of streets, primarily major thoroughfares, is provided in the section 020206B of the manual that is inclusive of Rocky River Road. Accordingly, sidewalk is required along Rocky River Road as part of the Union Power campus expansion. The intent of the sidewalk policy outlined in the detail manual is to allow new development to share in the placement of sidewalk along major arterial and collector streets, providing for an alternative means of transportation other than motor vehicles. Over time, this process will allow sections to be completed. Pedestrian friendliness it correlates to the livability of the community. Also, this roadway is included on the comprehensive transportation plan that we developed with Charlotte Regional Transportation Organization. As part of that, we have indicated that we desire to have a 4-lane facility ultimately along Rocky River Road, inclusive of pedestrian facilities, bicycle lanes, and sidewalk. The inclusion of sidewalk meets the NCDOT Complete Streets policy to consider and incorporate several modes of transportation when building new projects or making improvements to existing infrastructure. The existing sidewalk is taken into consideration during the development of the state transportation improvement projects and decreases the overall cost to the city for the completion of the pedestrian facilities.
Okay. Now, I understand, so that's saying that, we encourage sidewalks.
Yes,
But for the waiver, does that mean that Union Power requested that we waive that?
Yes, they do not want to install it.
They don't want a sidewalk,
They do not want to install the sidewalk.
See, we already did that for South Piedmont.
but they don't want it. That's-
No, South Piedmont didn't want it either. It just adds extra cost to it, and if you look, it ain't going nowhere. That sidewalk will be there, but it ain't gonna connect in the next 300 years, so you're just adding cost to the facility that Union Power is requesting, and I still make the motion that we grant the waiver request by Union Power Cooperative.
But if we grant the waiver, that means that we don't do it.
Don't,
That's correct. We don't do the sidewalk. Same as we did South Piedmont.
and there's
You
always,
suggested that we do it,
Yes, we recommend that we do it.
so.
Yeah, so it correlates with our other,
Detail
So we say
manual
nine
and
now.
other,
well, they also waived one out there at the airport. Which one was that? One of the buildings.
at that point, we took the airport, it was the city council directed us to take the airport road off that recommended list of streets for sidewalk.
so
Mayor,
if
you
we,
got a motion.
so if
Mayor,
you
you
want.
don't have a second, however, so
We ain't got
unless
to
there's,
that.
If we discuss-
They ain't
How many
called for it
discussion?
yet.
well, actually, Mayor, I wouldn't encourage discussion until you actually have a second, because right now, you have a motion with no second. You can have all the discussion you want, but if the motion is going to fail for lack of a second, it may not behoove the council to move forward. So you need another member to.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's count. Give me a hand or say something, somebody. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Did you raise?
Yeah,
And you may wish to then, Mayor, if the council's not ready to vote, you can have additional discussion and questions, because I think
Motion is to
you have Mayor Pro Tem Anderson
right.
appears to have a question.
Yeah,
This is to not require a sidewalk.
That's correct.
so we vote yes, we will require the sidewalk, right?
No, ma'am,
No, we don't.
if you vote yes, you are saying,
No
you are
sidewalk.
granting their request for a waiver.
Okay,
If you vote no, you're taking no action,
okay.
then there's
That's
another
the thing.
decision.
Well, we, okay. I have a motion and I have a second.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Is that,
All right.
I'm looking at the clerk to make sure we had.
That's what I'm trying to get the count on.
Can you, yeah, Mayor, could you ask everyone in favor to
vote
please
yes,
raise
that
their
means-
hands?
That's a question,
That's just what we did.
that's a question, Majid. If we vote yes, that means we want to.
Gonna waive it.
Yes, ma'am. If you vote yes, you're waiving
The
the
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
Okay.
Meaning
All
there's no
Waiving,
sidewalk.
you're granting their request.
No sidewalk, but we vote no, there will be a sidewalk.
No, if you
Well-
vote no, then you have to come back and figure out what your next
Okay,
thing is.
no motion, okay.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second. Are there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, raise your hand, please. All right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everybody. Okay, so it is waived.
So we're gonna have a sidewalk.
No,
No, now you're not.
no, it's waived.
No, ma'am.
Okay, any other, well, we passed. Any
If
other
there is
questions?
any
They
confusion
know
on
any other
it,
questions.
Mayor, then the
That,
member
that's
can,
still confusion.
can seek
All
reconsideration
right.
if they wish.
Okay, here we go. If you vote, if I say, I have a motion and a second, all in favor, if you in favor, if you say yes, you're in favor of waiving it.
Of
No
there being
sidewalk.
no
And-
sidewalk.
and
No
there would-
sidewalk.
There would be no sidewalk.
Okay,
And we vote no, then there is a sidewalk.
that's right.
No. If you vote no, it just means this, then you're against waiving the sidewalk. It doesn't automatically mean there will be a sidewalk.
So it needs to be.
Well, it will be because it's required.
No, not yet, because then the only motion you have right now, staff's recommendation was to deny the waiver.
That's exactly
The
right.
motion is to grant the waiver. So if
Right.
the motion fails, then you haven't granted the waiver, but it doesn't mean denying the waiver is automatic. You would then need another motion to deny the waiver, and then you go forward.
Well, I don't want to be argumentative, and I'm not being argumentative. What I'm saying is, if we say yes, we're gonna waive that sidewalk.
Yes,
If
sir.
the council has a majority saying no, they're gonna have to build a sidewalk because it's in the ordinance that says you're gonna do it. That's why we're trying to waive it.
Well, but you have to take action to approve the denial.
I
That's
thought we'd
what,
already voted.
you voted at least,
Sidewalk.
you voted about 2 times. However, if there is confusion, council is free to take a revote to clarify the issue.
Well, I call for the question, Mayor, vote.
And just a reminder.
All right, I have
if
a
you vote
motion.
Yes, it is, yes is no sidewalk. No is no.
And then that would be a motion needed to do the sidewalk.
Yes.
Okay.
You would need a separate motion.
All right, I have a motion and I have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hands, please. In favor. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yeas.
And
You got
all
your-
nays.
Yeah, 5 yeas.
It's just,
So that is waived. The sidewalk is out of here.
but just, Maren, you just need to make sure then that you need to call for the no's, because if you don't call for the
I didn't
no's,
know.
Okay. Ms. Anthony, no. Mr. McGee, no.
thank you.
Is anyone else? Okay.
Mayor,
Now,
just,
I'd like to make a
I just want to follow up on clarification of a while. How did this end up on a consent agenda without going before a committee? Apparently, no committee is.
Did go through a committee, went to Public Enterprise
vote
Committee.
on it one time already.
Okay, so we were not made aware of that. So we were not made aware that.
In my presentation, I mentioned that the purpose was to accept the Public Enterprise Committee and staff's recommendation.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sorry I missed that. But so the Public Enterprise Committee did not get an opportunity to give us maybe the reasons for not wanting to waive it. I guess that's what I was missing.
Okay, because we wanted to have a sidewalk there.
Oh, okay.
So if I am correct, then I make a motion that we, take the recommendation of the city and put a sidewalk there.
But the motion and the votes already said not to do it, 5-by-5 votes.
And if I understood you, what you said he wanted a sidewalk there.
That was the city's recommendation.
Oh, when you said he, I thought you talked about Union Power.
No, I said the city.
Well, yeah, that's, yeah.
And the
I'm-
committee's recommendation.
And
Well, that's over.
And the PEC committee recommended it as well.
Well, it's over. with. We done voted on it. It's gone to bed.
But for just for future reference, Mayor, if a committee has weighed in on something and they've reviewed it, it would be helpful to me to hear, what discussion the committees had, because, they had more discussion on it than we've had in the short period of time that we've had.
I think
But is this what the Public Enterprise Committee recommended, or no?
Not to waive it.
Or why is it on the,
They wanted it waived. We voted not to waive it.
What, but how did it get to,
Recommendation.
but how did it get to consent agenda?
Because it
it's-
goes to a committee.
It was a recommendation from a committee, so it's, and oftentimes the, committee recommendations or
Well, which I understand that, 'cause I'm on that committee, but I don't think that, I don't recall us recommending it in this manner. So, yeah,
I'm fixing to go. Okay,
Well, so, to be clear, my motion was out of order.
okay, she got you counted.
Which
The
motion?
motion to, put the sidewalk, up there at Rock River Road and Union Power.
It would now be, because the only motion that was originally on the table was Councilmember Keziah's to deny, to grant the waiver request. And that was made and properly seconded and then voted on by council 3 times. And the third time, the vote being 5-2. Any motion then made after that, because council had already taken action to grant the waiver, you can't then go and deny it at that point.
Because
Because
I asked the question prior to the vote.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
And then I thought you said then that next time we could make a motion.
No, ma'am, it would be, your question, as I understood it, was if a vote no on that motion, and if the noes prevailed, the sidewalk would have to be built. And my response was no, that would not be correct, because all you'd be doing is saying no to the waiver request. What would happen then is the next thing you'd have to do is to deny the waivers, then have another vote. But because the council voted to to grant the waiver request, and it passed 5-2, the discussion ends at that point.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't think council understood and voted for, but okay.
If any members of council have a concern within that vote, those voting in the affirmative may move to reconsider, and council can reconsider that vote if it wishes.
Hearing none, we'll go to regular agenda. Public hearing, item 12, downtown economic incentive grant. Mr. Brian Ball.
Good evening. Tonight I'm requesting council to consider an incentive package proposal requested by MBW Landlord LLC for the development of the Piedmont Buggy Factory property. MBW Landlord LLC acquired an option to purchase 514 Miller Street in August of 2017, and they have been working with the city and Union County Historic Preservation, Self-Help, the current property owner, to overcome obstacles associated with the redevelopment of this historic property, which is on a major gateway into downtown Monroe. To date, they have reached milestones of design and approval of the site plan, successful rezoning to permit the use of approximately 54 market-rate loft apartments. They've obtained local landmark designation, and prior to December 31st, 2017, a 1% ownership entity in the property was created by the developers to preserve the eligibility of the federal historic rehabilitation tax credits. The vision for Piedmont Buggy Works is to convert the existing building into approximately 54-unit market-rate apartments, create an inviting and aesthetic improvement to the Skyway Boulevard Gateway, act as an anchor and catalyst for continued residential development consistent with the downtown master plan, and be a supportive neighbor to the community shelter. The estimated investment is about $9 million upon completion, and in order to overcome some of these obstacles, we've established an incentive package consisting of an interest-free loan and a city downtown incentive grant. The interest-free loan is a $400,000 loan provided by the city with no payments are due until approximately 84 months from the project commencement. The funds will then be paid back in one lump sum upon refinancing of the initial debt on the property upon the exit of the historic tax credit investors. That's both state and federal. And then the number two, the city downtown incentive grant will not exceed in total $221,870 or $22,187 annually for improvements to the property for a period of 10 years, beginning in fiscal year 2022 from the initial commencement of the project. The current property valuation is about $540,000, and the grant award to the development team is based on the assessed value of the improvements to the property. That is the amount of assessed value above the base value of the $540,000. Prior to receiving any grant dollars, the development group must be in good standing with the city on its property taxes, utilities, and other fees due owing the city. This has been before General Services Committee, and staff recommends approval of the incentive package, the interest-free loan, and the downtown incentive grant.
What's the total in grant? Is it 400,000 or is it gonna be 600?
The loan, there's two components, two different incentives. The loan is the 400,000, and then the incentive grant is the 221,870.
So the incentive, they don't have to pay back the grant, they do.
Right, the grant they do. And Patrick Riley is here tonight. He's with Rehab Development and MBW Landlord LLC. If you have any questions, he's the managing partner on the project.
Where were the 400,000? Where are you anticipating that to come from?
That would probably be from I guess, general fund. Fund balance.
Okay, from that. So, are we going to be paid interest on that?
No, interest-free.
Interest-free for the period of time
Yes.
that they're holding the money?
Yes. And the loan would commence once the project begins, so it's not an immediate, he has until December 31st, 2020 to begin the project.
And if they don't begin, what happens is 400,000?
Well, we're not committed to loaning it, or there could possibly be an extension if the developer so wishes, and council would be
What, I mean, what
obliged to do that.
if it just goes away, they say, well, we're not gonna build it, it's not a viable product.
There's no loan to make then.
I'm
When-
sorry.
Then there's no loan for us to make, it'll just remain in the general fund.
When will once they start the project, when will we make the $400,000 available to them?
At the beginning, at the commencement of their project.
So first brick,
Yeah.
And when, and how long will they have to pay that back to us?
Let's see, there's no payments due until about 84 months. And that allows the tax credits to kind of do their time, expire. So it gives that added boost to help the project succeed.
Okay, and tell me again what we're going to be doing in addition to the 400,000 on an annual basis?
It'll be the incentive grant. It totals $221,870, which equates to no greater than $22,187 over 10 years. So we'll pay it out annually at their written request.
Ron said that this loan is secured by a deed of trust. First mortgage?
I'm not sure
It's
about.
secured, it is secured by deed of trust, but we do not have a position where we are first or second. We don't, that was not,
No.
that, shouldn't that be simple?
ma'am?
We don't have to require it be first or second?
No, ma'am, we do not. First, and I would defer to Assistant City Manager Bourne. First position typically is taken by the banks.
The banks.
And so you could conceivably become second position if council requests that, but I think you'd want to agree to have the developer agree to a requirement for second position.
The question I asked a while ago, I either asked the wrong way or didn't understand. We make the loan. And 6 months after they start the project, or a year, or whatever given time, they decide this is not a viable project, we're just gonna shut it down and leave. We don't get that $400,000, everybody gets theirs up front. Is that correct? I mean, the bank or whatever being the first mortgage.
Not on our loan.
How we get our, in other words, if they walk away from the project, what I'm saying, how we get our $400,000 back?
Well, Mayor, first, if the project doesn't start, there is no loan.
Let me just state it again.
If they start
We
and then
loan you
abandon in the
400.
middle, then you foreclose on the deed of trust.
That's what I'm trying
That's
to
the
get.
answer you want.
The question is, we loan you $400,000.
Uh-huh.
You go out and start digging foundations, driving nails or whatever.
Then-
3 months now, 6 months, down the road. Well, we don't think this project is viable, we're gonna walk off. Now, that's where I'm at, and that's my question. If that happens, that's what I know. We gotta get in line is what I'm saying, because we're not first mortgage.
Right.
So everybody line up and hope you get it. Now,
And we'll get it in increments. I will get money.
Lump sum.
Lump sum.
okay. I understand. I mean, I know right where I'm at. Been there, done that.
Okay.
Okay,
I've got Patrick here if y'all have any other questions.
I've got him down, where he signed up to speak. I'll be glad to recognize him at this time, if he would like to speak. Mr. Patrick, you will come to the podium, please. Name and address for our record, please, Patrick.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Patrick Riley, 6016 Raleigh, North Carolina, 27612. It's nice to be here in front of council again. I know I've spoken with many of you on other occasions. I would just probably like to take the opportunity to address some of the questions that I heard up here that didn't sound like they probably had quite enough meat behind the answer, let's say. This project, though, before I get into that, is extraordinarily challenging from a financial standpoint. So in order to even get a lender to talk to us seriously about doing this, we need to have these type of financial incentives in place. Otherwise, the numbers out here just will not work under any circumstances whatsoever. My sponsor team and I are very experienced developers. We've done projects significantly larger than what we're talking about here. And we will have to be able to provide the bank, whoever our lender is, with a personal guarantee of our financial statement that they're going to know by the time they loan us the first dollar, which we're going to have all that closed before we start swinging hammers, that they know this is a done deal and that we're not going to be flying off, to Las Vegas or anything. We're going to need to close about $4.7 million first position loan in order to do that. And they're not just going to give us that money if they think there's any chance that we're going to walk away and not pay this back. So that would be in first position on any debt, would have to be that bank debt, that larger 4.7 number, somewhere, it'll be somewhere around there, 4.7 to possibly 5. I don't know exactly where we'll end up. Then the city would be where the city is, and what I've done historically, and I think you'd end up in second position, but I have to see the way the tax credit syndication documents look. We could have the same kind of thing, where we'd have the personal guarantor team that's going to guarantee the bank debt would be on the debt that we're guaranteeing from the city, which we never draw $1 on until we've already closed the bank debt and the bank feels good about that. So there's a chance for anything, I guess, but the chances that we could ever get the project started and walk off with the city's $400,000 is very minuscule, because we're already going to be in such debt to the tax credit syndication and the bank first position holder, and then there's penalties on the tax credit syndication side. I don't even want to think about what kind of trouble that would cause me. So the city's money is going to be extremely secure in a non-primary position of whatever that ends up with, and I'm sure that there's going to be documents that we'll have to sign that give those assurances. I wanted to address that right away. If there was specific project questions about this project, because I've spoken before up to council about this. We got zoned for 56 apartments, market rate apartments, which we're going to be trying to drive people with disposable income very close to the downtown proximity, so they can help support the downtown businesses. We've done this in a lot of other cities across North Carolina and our neighboring states, and we try to create win-win-win situations for everybody involved. It'll be a unique housing product that there will not be anything similar to it that I'm aware of in the market right now, in that it'll have the nicest amenities and finishes of any type of rental housing that I'm aware of anywhere close to downtown Monroe, which will further allow employers in this area to attract that additional quality workforce, because they'll have a quality place that they can move to and live in. As I mentioned when I first came up here, the building is wonderful. The bones of it are incredible. I fell in love with it like 2 years ago when it was under contract from another developer that was going to do affordable housing there. And I thought, man, if that doesn't ever go anywhere, we need to get it, because that is a very, very unique, impressive building. I think it's one of the undeveloped gems of Union County and Monroe specifically. The challenges with it are it is not right in downtown, so we're going to have to overcome some obstacles with getting underwriting on the financing side from banks. I think the rents that we have pro forma are going to be higher than most what we see in the market today, but that's typical of every project we've ever done, and I'm confident we'll be able to get through that. There's the shelter, which we've met with the shelter. One of my partners from Washington, D.C. came up here. We sat down with the executive director of the shelter, talked through that whole concept, and we're very comfortable that the use of that property as we see it to be and the shelter will be complementary to one another, and can definitely make each of those properties more unique and allowed to be enjoyed by the community at large. Excuse me. And I think that's pretty much all the high notes that I wanted to hit. We've gone through a pretty exhaustive process where staff has asked a lot of good questions. We've done our best to answer them. At this time, I think we have as many answers as we can possibly get. If this is passed, hopefully what happens then is I will be able to begin a more comprehensive underwriting process with banks and potential tax credit investors who are also going to be fly-specking all these numbers very, very carefully. And we won't be able to close our bank loan or our syndication until everybody's completely comfortable with what we're doing. So hopefully that gives the city a little bit of solace that there's going to be several other professionals that are going to be looking at this and making sure these numbers all add up and make sense. And with that, I will answer any other questions.
What timeline are you looking at?
Well, as the documents indicate, we won't be able to get started most likely in 2019, because once we hit the go button and I won't be able to do that until that shelter is up, running, open, and I'm able to take lenders and my partners through it, and where everyone's comfortable that it's okay. The timeline from the point that we pull the trigger and say let's go to when you can possibly get into construction is at least 6 months. So most likely it's going to be sometime in 2020, or early to late 2020, and unfortunately that's the best guesstimate I can give you right now.
That's to start building.
Mm-hmm. And then the construction cycle for a project like that has a lot of demo, like we're going to have to take down one of those buildings, and we're going to have to do several amounts of site work. The total construction schedule will probably be about 18 months. That's why we wanted to give ourselves a window of 24 months from the end of 2020 through the end of 2022, so we don't have to come back in front of council later and say, hey, we didn't make the timeline. I've never had to do that before, and I don't want to start it in Monroe.
Excuse me, how much investment has your group got involved in the project?
Right now, like just where we are today, we've probably put in about, not counting a dollar for any time I've spent on this and donated time from one of my partners doing a lot of the engineering work, we're probably into it for about $50,000 cash right now.
Have you been able one of the concerns was parking. Have you been able to squeeze some more parking spaces out of that?
No. Since we had the last conversation, we have not squeezed any more parking spaces in there. I don't know that we're going to be able to. When we as long as we have that baseline of the spaces that we have, if we get down to where we're coming to final drawings and somebody thinks of a way we can do some more, we certainly will. That's one of the reasons why I backed down the unit count that was approved for 56 units to 54, so that we don't add undue stress on a parking situation. If we come up with some extra spaces and we can put in the whole 56 units, we want to, But if we don't, we don't want to create a problem if we don't need to.
How much parking do you have now if you didn't get any more?
I would have to let this. I think there's 60 some, a low 60s parking count.
So how many units could you build based on that?
We got approved for 56. I think we could do 56 with it, but I backed it down to 54 for the purposes of the proposal that we're talking about now, just because I'm not trying to, I don't want to commit to more apartments. And then when we get further down the road and we've passed 56 apartments and whatever we're doing today, and I can only do 54 because we think we got a parking problem, we'll be back here having another conversation.
So you say 54 units and 66 parking spaces?
I think it's low 60s. I'm not sure. Planning and zoning might know the number. I don't want to misstate that. I know there was at least one parking. I think there was at least one parking spot for every bedroom in that site, which included 56 apartments and two of those were 2 bedrooms. So I believe it's 62 spaces, to the best of my knowledge. And that was discussed at the other meeting when we talked about the change in use.
Okay, are there any questions? Hearing none, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is anyone else here who would like to speak in favor? If not, is anyone here who would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and take action.
I move that we adopt the resolution to warrant and send it back.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that's passed. Thank you, sir.
Motion to adopt the
Yep.
incentive agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passed.
Motion to approve the loan agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passed.
Motion to approve the promissory note.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That'll pass.
Motion to adopt the budget amendment.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's passed. Item 13, 11, a level 2 economic development incentive grant, Sandwich Productions. Chris? Who's Evan? We recognize Evan this time from Carolina.
That's right. Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, and Manager Faison, it's my pleasure to be speaking with you tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Evan Mazingo. I'm the new projects manager and marketing coordinator with economic development. And so thank you for having me up here today. It is my pleasure to bring before you tonight an economic development incentive grant requested by Duke Sandwich Productions, otherwise referred to as Project Gold. Duke Sandwich Productions is headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina. The company has a 100-year history of producing top-quality food products for the private label supermarket and restaurant industry. The company is considering a $5 million investment to acquire the Great American Snacks facility located on Simpson Street in Monroe. The project includes the purchase and upfit of the 110,000 square foot facility and the installation of new state-of-the-art process equipment. If Monroe is selected, the acquisition and retrofit activity could start as early as second quarter of this year, 2019. A minimum of 10 new jobs would be created, paying an average of $17 per hour. The company has indicated that incentives are a very important factor for the project and that the project is in competition with other corporate locations. Tonight, we are requesting for your consideration for a Level 2 Economic Development Incentive Grant in the amount not to exceed $115,000 to be paid over a 5-year period beginning in fiscal year 2022 based upon the Union County Tax Office's appraised value each year on the company's anticipated investment of $5 million in building expansion and new equipment. Based on this investment and holding all factors constant, including depreciation, the company would pay estimated ad valorem taxes on the new taxable investment of $154,075 over the 5-year grant period. Actual tax revenue to the city will be based on the current tax rate applied to the assessed value of the investment each year after depreciation. We ran a project cost-benefit analysis, and during the 5-year grant period, a cost-benefit analysis ratio of 2.68 to 1. After the 5-year grant period and over the life of the project, it's 2.98 to 1. We presented this project to the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors last month on the 15th of January, where they unanimously recommended we bring the project to City Council for your consideration. We also brought this project to the Union County Board of Commissioners last night, where a similar economic development grant was awarded. Therefore, the Monroe Union County Economic Development Board of Advisors and staff recommend that you award the Level 2 performance-based incentive grant to Duke's Sandwich Productions in the amount not to exceed $115,000 in order to help secure this $5 million investment. At this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Jesus Concepcion, who is here from the Duke Sandwich Productions. He is the Chief Human Resources Officer there, and he is available tonight to answer any questions that you may have, and as well as I am. Again, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Pleased to have you here, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Being part of Monroe and Union County.
I have a question.
And I make a motion that we adopt the resolution awarding incentive agreement.
Actually, this is a public hearing, so you still need,
Oh, excuse me.
To have
I had one second.
I got to get by that. Okay.
yes, sir.
Sir, what other cities are being considered?
Actually, we were just considering Monroe because our CEO went to university here and he wanted to put roots here in Monroe.
Now, these 10 jobs, are they skilled jobs or?
Yes, we actually haven't, I've already sent out 4 offer letters. We haven't even closed a deal yet. But I would say within the highest paid person that we just offered was about $115,000 in terms of an annual salary. Lowest paid was about $69,000. So yes, they're skilled.
Okay.
What name is your product sold under in?
So we do have our own brand, Duke Brands, but we also do brands for many other companies, Costco, Cisco, Sam's, tons of other companies that we work for.
So your distribution is mainly to box stores or?
No, supermarkets, box stores, specialty stores. So we have clients that we have accounts that are $20 million, and we have clients that are accounts of $500,000.
Well, I've eaten a good sandwich before, so I can tell you they are pretty good.
Thank you.
That's good. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, sir, very much. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone else who'd like to speak in favor? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and take action.
Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the resolution awarding incentive agreement.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, that will pass. How about the other?
Motion to approve the incentive agreement.
Okay.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Incentive is approved. How about item C?
Move to approve the incentive agreement.
Okay, that is, okay. All right.
Good job. Thank you.
Item 14, a text amendment request. I'm sorry.
C, move to approve the incentive agreement.
We did.
Yeah, we did that. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, he got
Yeah.
it.
Item 14, the text amendment request to amend Code of Ordinances. This is a public hearing also.
Good evening, I'm Carrie Mendler with the Planning Department. The City Council is requested to consider a zoning text amendment to Section 152.057, action on an application for a certificate of appropriateness, and Section 156.201, certificates of appropriateness generally. The ordinances provide time limits for the Historic District Commission to act on applications based on when they are filed. Currently, the ordinances provide the Commission 60 days from the time the application is filed to take action on the application. If no final action is taken within this time frame, the application is automatically approved. At times, the Commission needs to table a request to gather more information, and depending on when the application is filed, it can be difficult to meet this 60-day deadline to take action. The Commission may not be able to gather the information they need to make an informed decision, which may lead to the denial of an application due to lack of information, meaning that the applicant would have to refile a new application and fees for their proposal. The existing ordinances are copied in your staff report for reference, And the North Carolina General Statute 160A-400.9 states that all applications for certificates of appropriateness shall be reviewed and acted upon within a reasonable time not to exceed 180 days from the date of application for a certificate of appropriateness is filed, as defined by the ordinance or the Commission's rule of procedure. So the Planning Board did make a recommendation to approve this text amendment with the recommendation that the time limit be increased to 90 days.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, council have any questions? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone here who'd like to speak in favor? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and take action.
Move to adopt a resolution approving land development plan compliance.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those pass.
Motion to adopt an ordinance amending chapter 152, section 152.057 of the Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Motion, a second, all in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none.
Motion to adopt an ordinance amending chapter 156, section 156.201 of the Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, that'll pass. Okay, item 15, request by Union County to designate a section of existing US 74 bypass Monroe Expressway. Jim, we recognize you, sir.
Thank you. At the City Council meeting on December 4th, 2019, information was presented regarding the proposal by Union County to designate the section of existing US 74 bypass by the Monroe Expressway as US 74 business. The Monroe Expressway would in turn be designated a US 74 toll in lieu of the current designation of US 74 bypass toll. This item was tabled to allow time to collect additional information and coordinate with the affected municipalities. A meeting was held on January 4th with Union County, Monroe, Wingate, and Indian Trail in attendance. Councilmember Kazai was present, as well as County Commissioner Richard Hams, the Mayor of Indian Trail, Michael Alvarez, and Pat Kell with the Chamber of Commerce. The group determined that a letter would be sent to the State Traffic Engineer and the Executive Director of North Carolina Turnpike Authority requesting clarification on a number of items. A copy of the letter is provided in your agenda package. Primary concerns that are addressed in the letter include verification of the overall process with obtaining destination to business. As we currently understand the process, force support is required from all the entities affected. Then a resolution of support would be needed from the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization with approval by the State Traffic Engineer, and ultimately it would go back to ASHTO to get approval for the business designation. The second item that was questioned was the estimated cost for signage to help the entities determine how they wanted to proceed in this matter. Also, clarification was requested from Turnpike Authority that they had indicated that the blue designation signs would not be allowed on the expressway. And this is a concern because this affects future businesses at the interchanges. No one would know what is located at those interchanges, so they would decide if they want to get off or not. And then last, the question was, in case the business name in US 74 business did not get approved, what was the ability to install additional signage at either end of US 74, identified as a route to access businesses? Subsequently to this, on January 10th, 2019, Indian Trail town manager responded that the town is in full support of any attraction signs that would benefit our business community. But our town council was not and still is not in support of the new designation for Highway 74 and its replacement cost. Without Indian Trail support, it is doubtful that this matter can move forward. The blue signage on the expressway that would affect future businesses at the interchanges and the attraction signs are items that still need to be pursued. And the next steps would be determined after we receive response from the state traffic engineer and the executive director of Turnpike Authority. At this point, there's no action required.
Just information.
Yes, it's just information.
Okay. Any questions for Jim on any of this?
Jim did a good job on that.
Yep.
Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Item 16 is health plan, fiscal year 2019-2020. This time, Ms. Reed.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Thank you all for giving us an opportunity to share with you our renewal process and the options for our health and cafeteria plan. I have two guests here this evening to go over with you the renewal part, and the optional part would be Mark Browder from Mark III. And then for our wellness program, it's just informational purposes to let you know how the city has done in terms of our wellness program and how that all coordinates with our health plan. So I'm going to turn the program over to Mark Browder, oh, there you go. I was like, looking for you back there. Okay, here, Mark.
See if I got this right. Thanks for having me. 5 years ago, for those of you who were here, I delivered a mid-20% increase. The mayor expressed massive concerns about that increase, if you remember. I certainly do, because I was standing here when he did. And I was so terrified from that experience that I decided I didn't want to come back with bad news for a long time. So, working on the 5th year, it's not bad news. We're here to talk about health plan performance, the renewal, and the options that we have in front of us. So, 4 years, we've had no funding increases and no benefit changes in the health plan, which is astounding, quite honestly. It's great health plan performance. The city's wellness initiatives, which you're going to hear about some of that this evening, have worked well, very well, in stabilizing the health of the population. Not that you don't have the chance of having increases in the future, but it has absolutely helped mitigate what we've seen historically, and it's worked extremely well. The reserve position is in a very strong place today from all of the good work that's been done. And we're recommending a mid-single-digit increase for the first time again in over 4 years. And this, you can't really see. I'll just tell you what the slide says. I put so many numbers up here so you can't read it. I'll just interpret for you. This was the 17-18 plan experience. Claims were basically flat, and we had a positive position of about $500,000. In 18-19, we're still in a good position, but the margin or the cushion that we have has shrunk somewhat. The renewal calculation that you have in front of us, the math, the formula, says that there should be about a 4%, 3.5% to 4% increase. And that's what we're recommending, especially since you haven't seen any increase whatsoever in the last 4 years. We're making that recommendation with no benefit changes at all to the employees, no premium increases to the employees, and a mid-single-digit increase. This information that you have in front of you basically shows that you have had no plan changes, no benefit modification, no funding increase, no premium increases. This goes back to before 15-16. So since 15-16, 16-17, 17-18, 18-19, no changes whatsoever. For the upcoming year, we're recommending that the city increases funding by 5%, no increase on the employee, and that basically nets out to a 4% increase. So we really feel good about this. We've definitely gone through the trials and tribulations on the health plan with the benefits committee. Fortunately, the manager never got to experience any of that, so maybe all this good news is because you've had a new manager and a new airport director. I have no idea. But that's the recommendation for the health plan. Any questions of me at all?
Any questions, council? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the renewal expectations.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, the health plan.
Motion to approve Tucker administration to administer plans.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Motion to authorize the city manager to execute any and all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion, second. All in favor? Okay, that's passed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now I have from Atrium HealthWorks, we have David Fox, who will just cover an overview of how our employees have done with the wellness plan.
Okay.
And there's no motion, this is just for information purposes.
All right.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you for having me. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is David Fox with Atrium Health, and we have the privilege of administering the health and wellness program for the city of Monroe. So for this year, we saw a total of 490 screened participants for the city of Monroe. That includes employees, spouses, and retirees. And that shows a 7.9% increase from 2015. So we continue to see improved engagement in the wellness program each year, which is great to see. The overall engagement rate for 2018 was 88.8% out of the eligible employees, spouses, and retirees. This slide right here just gives an overall snapshot of the health of the population. So for each different risk measurement, what percent of the screened participants are at risk for each measurement. And so we take this information and we risk stratify the employees into high risk, moderate risk, and low risk, and then engage the appropriate care based on where the risk falls. So as you can tell, the red ones are areas where the city is above the national average, and green areas are the ones where they're below the national average. So doing very well in overall total cholesterol, A1C values. Areas to improve is the prehypertensive range, so when the blood pressure starts to creep up, and also the BMI and waist circumference. And those are areas that we are targeting and engaging participants in through our health coaching program. Like I stated earlier, we take the different risk measurements and group the participants into overall risk levels. So the line graph on the left shows you guys at the city of Monroe. So we have 48.7% high risk, 25.9% moderate, and 25.4% low in 2018. And that's trended over the past 4 years. So as you can see, there's been a decrease in the high risk participants since the program began. And they're moving into the moderate and low. The pie chart on the right shows our book of business at Atrium Health as a whole and how you all compare. So right on par, if not slightly better than our book of business as a whole. This slide breaks down the specific biometric measurements for your population. So as you can see, we have blood pressure, A1C, cholesterol, waist circumference, and tobacco use that we received from the cotinine testing on the employees. So again, we're seeing a downward trend in A1C, total cholesterol, waist circumference, and tobacco use has stayed constant throughout the year. So this slide is for the cohort participants. So the cohort is defined as any participants that have engaged in the screening for all 4 years, so 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. So that gives you your core group to give you a picture of how that core group of employees, spouses, and retirees is moving throughout the years. The total number in the cohort is 317. Of that 317, 34% of the participants reduced their number of risks or maintained a low risk status over the period. 53% did not change, so they either stayed in the high risk or moderate risk, and then 13% increased their risk over the period. And again, we see the cohort broken out by specific biometric risk measurements. So again, we see the trend of the decrease in overall A1C, and also a decrease in waist circumference with the cohort participants. And here we've taken the participants in the cohort and broken it out into the different risk categories, and you can see a line graph of the specific numbers of folks that were in the higher moderate category. So overall, we're seeing the downward trend. Blood pressure likes to tick up and down each year, but overall we see a downward trend over the years. And you will notice that the overweight for the BMI has increased over the year, but that is due to folks moving from the obese category to the overweight category. So they're reducing their BMI, moving out of that obese category, which is showing an increase in the overweight. And again, this is for the tobacco nicotine use. So within that cohort group, since 2016, 5 people no longer use tobacco. This slide correlates with the line graphs we just looked at. So on the top line is the estimated annual savings that you could potentially realize from reducing one person out of the high risk category. And these numbers were developed by the CDC guidelines, the Center for Disease Control guidelines, as an estimation. And so the numbers on the bottom show either the costs or the savings. And again, this is just an estimate, but based on how the employee's health has trended. So as you can see, folks reduce their risk for diabetes and hyperlipidemia over the past year. So that's where you're seeing the green. And then there were some folks that showed an increased blood pressure and increased waist circumference from last year to this year. And that's where you're seeing the red number from. And finally, we just wanted to share some highlights from the 2017-2018 wellness program year. So 28 different participants met with a health coach for a total of 48 visits. 1,626 pounds and 365.25 inches were lost collectively from all the folks that went through the screening from last year to this year. And within that, 54 participants lost more than 2 inches from their waist from last year to this year, which is a significant loss. And 48 employees lost 10 or more pounds over the period, which is also great. 7 participants tested negative for cotinine from last year to this year. And when you plug that into the CDC estimator, that's a potential savings in claims and productivity of $26,229 from ceasing the tobacco use. This slide right here is a sample of the weight and waist incentive plan for the employees. So this is just an example to show you how the incentive is calculated for the weight and waist incentive. So this is an example of a made-up female with made-up numbers. But as you can see, they did not meet their incentive for waist because they were not under the 35 inches, but they had a 5% decrease in their overall weight, which led them to met their $250 weight waist incentive. And within the incentive plan, so out of the 474 employees that were eligible, 422 participated in the incentive plan, which is a participation rate of 89%. Specific to the $250 weight waist incentive, 293 met that overall and got that $250 bonus. 266 of those 293 met it with their waist measurement. So for men, that's less than 40 inches. Women, that's less than 35. And then 9, 5, and 13 met it through alternate measures. So again, with that 5% decrease year over year. And the points incentive, 345 out of the 422 met that points incentive for the year. And that was calculated as of December 6, 2018. So they also have the option to meet with the health coach throughout the year as a reasonable alternative standard. So there's definitely potential that more will meet that points incentive as well. Right. And that is all we have. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay. Any questions?
Great job.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Right,
Thank you very
all
much.
for your
Good
time.
job. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll go to the public comment period. If anyone here who'd like to speak, if you will, please hold it to 3 minutes. And I have one lady signed up, Ms. Loretta. If you can condense it, thank you very much.
I have props tonight. Loretta Melanson, 2923 Meadow Creek Lane, Monroe. I am not here for litter busters. I am here as a very concerned citizen of the city of Monroe and Union County. We have a growing problem with illegal signs being placed all over. It started with my talking to DOT about signs in Union County, and they said, oh yeah, absolutely illegal. This was the guy that I was after. He was putting signs on almost every corner in the area of the county that I drive. And they told me they can't deal with taking them down. It's definitely illegal. Gave me their blessing to take them down. I have 90 of this man's sign from a very small section in the country of Union County. Okay, so got him under control. The DOT people, environmental people in Albemarle called him. My email to him did nothing. We have a new contender. I went to a screening at the hospital on Friday, and as I'm coming out, two of his smaller signs are right there as you enter the hospital. And I was upset. So I get out the car, I pull them up. I went from the hospital down to Rocky River Road and beyond. Rocky River Road, I believe, is our city, I'm lost from my word, within the city's jurisdiction. We go into Indian Trail and then Stallings. He continues into Indian Trail and Stallings. However, between the hospital and Rocky River Road, my husband drove me on Sunday when the traffic was light. I picked up 50 of this size and 15 of this size. At every corner, 5 signs. So I spoke with my liaison at the environmental unit in Albemarle, Mr. Bruce Myers, and he informs me that DOT maintains 74, the street itself, but that maybe 10 years ago the city agreed with DOT to be responsible for the
Grass mowing, et cetera.
Excuse me?
The maintenance, the grass.
Yeah, mowing the grass, and
But not all of it.
yeah, I was trying to find out who takes care of the trees in the median, and I found out it's the city, it's not DOT. Anyway, so it's hard to say, who do I get to tackle this problem?
Let me question that. Let me talk a little bit about it anyway. I know there are signs, and I saw a lot of them too. But I know our zoning folks do pick up some of these signs.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I've been picking them up when I'm doing these.
Well, I shouldn't be, I'm not
Yeah.
supposed to be carrying on a conversation. I didn't mean to do that. But
Yeah.
let me just say, I know our folks do pick up some signs. I'm not gonna sit here and say what a great job they do, because I'm not sure, but I think they do a pretty good job. But yeah, there are a lot of signs in and around the county, and I've seen them. But the only thing that I can do, or the council can do, or the city manager can do, to my knowledge, is we can address them in the city, but we can't address them in the county.
Oh, right, yeah, I
And
realized that.
We are doing that, and Lisa's here, and I think she will pass it on again tomorrow or whenever, that we need to watch for these signs.
Yeah, I have spoken to Doug, and I am going back to, I think, planning and code enforcement
Okay.
to speak about this further, because I can call them, but my voice is not going to be heard.
Well, we'll take care of the city. If not, you're welcome to call me.
All right.
Loretta, can I
Thank
ask
you.
Would you hold one of those signs up again?
Huh? Oh,
I reckon that's the mayor's number, isn't it?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Oh, and I mean, the other thing, you know, we have copycats, but, you know, these people have not posted on every single street corner. You know, I can find some forgiveness for them, and people, you know, that have yard sales, people that have lost animals, but these things should not stay on the signs forever. I mean, okay.
Thank you for your dinner.
All right.
Look at this one. You know, that was still, I'm sorry. This really has me upset. Thank you.
I'll ask the managers to recheck with our folks and
Okay.
for our city and see if, I don't know how good we're doing. I think we're doing all right because I know they've picked up a lot of those signs, but we're gonna redo it. All right.
Yeah,
the other
well, I
thing-
didn't give anybody a chance. They went up on Friday, and my husband and I had them down by Sunday.
Let's move on. We gotta move on. Is anyone else here who would like to address the council?
We adjourn, Mayor.
I have no other way, okay, I may have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Adjourn. Thank you very much.